Hello everyone, welcome to EtechFactory. In this video, we will discuss about a problem that can be asked in your Selenium and Java interview. Now, why these problems are asked in an interview? The main purpose of these kind of problems is to know your problem solving skills. So now, let us see when you get into these kind of problems how this can be solved in an interview. Before getting into the solution, there are some points that you have to keep it in your mind. First and foremost, you have to listen to the problem carefully and then do not assume anything. So, whatever the doubts that you have in this question, get it clarified with the interviewer before you start going with the logic. The second thing is understand the problem and then go for the logic. Now, let us see what are the different steps that you have to do in an interview to solve these kind of problems. As I said, first thing is understand the question and whatever the inputs that are provided by the interviewer. Then you are supposed to explain the logic to the interviewer, and if the interviewer is satisfied, then you have to execute the same code in the system and get the expected output. I hope we are clear with the steps that we are going to take care. And now let us see the problem. So here the first question that what we are seeing here is identify the set of two numbers from the given below array which will give the product of an integer which is again provided as an input. We'll see the array of numbers. So the array of numbers are 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then another integer that is provided is 90. So now understand the problem. So the problem here is from this array of numbers 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, you're supposed to identify those numbers which will give the product as 90. So now this you have to do it with the help of Java. So the code, the logic that you will be coming up with, you're going to see how this how these two numbers you're going to derive it from this array of numbers, and you're going to multiply them, and then you will be actually comparing it with the integer that is provided. So now what is the expected output? Obviously you all know that it's 9 and 10. So if you multiply 9 and 10 from the array of numbers, you will get the integer as 90. So whenever you execute the program, whatever that you have written for this problem statement, the expected output should be 9 and 10. Now let us see the logic explanation further.
Okay, so now we will see the logic for the problem that what we have seen in the first slide. So the problem is this. So here we are going to take one array which is going to have some 5 or 6 numbers. Let us take 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So these are the 6 numbers that we have taken, and we are going to take one more number called n1, which is going to be any random integer. So I'm going to give it as 90. So as you saw the question, so the problem here is you're supposed to identify the two numbers which is going to give you the product of this n1. Okay, so if you see these numbers 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, so the product is going to be 9 and 10. So our output should be 9 comma 10. Okay, so these are problem statement. So now let us see the same thing by executing the code with the Java and also the logic that what we are going to see. So now the logic will be explained with the help of loops. So now I'm going to take two loops. One is the first for loop. Here I'm going to initialize it as int I equals 0 and I less than a1 dot length to get the boolean expression, and I plus plus, which is going to increment the loop each time. And the first loop opens up here, and now I have to iterate it towards this array. I just need two for loops for the same. So I'm going to create one more for loop with another integer inside it as initialization int j equals 1. j less than array 1 dot length and j plus plus, which is going to increment the second loop. Now the problem statement is you are supposed to identify the two numbers which is going to give you the product equals to 90. So now we are supposed to do the operation here. So to do that operation, I am going to initialize one more integer as result equals, I am supposed to do the product of the first number and the second number. To do that, I'll do a1 of I multiplied by a1 of j. So now the product that is actually got here is stored in this variable result. Now my next action is I am supposed to compare this result with the n1. So to do that, I am going to use here if condition, which is going to give you if result equals n1. So what happens? If result equals n1, I am supposed to print that those two numbers. So here I am just going to print a1 of I comma a1 of j. Okay. If it is not equal, I am just going to not use any else loop or anything. I am just going to end this condition here, and I am just going to end this inner for loop, and the outer for loop is ended. So this is a sample code, pseudo code that I have written, which doesn't have any class or anything. It is just a for loop. That is the main logic that what we are going to do. So now let us see how this logic works. So initially when the for loop comes here, the I is equal to 0. I is equal to 0 means the 0th index is 5. So and j equals 1, the first index is 7. So you are going to get 5 here and 7 here, and when you multiply this, the 7 into 5 is 35, so that comes and sits in the result variable here, and that is compared with n1 90. Since 35 is not equal to 90, it will not go inside this condition and print this statement. It will end up this if condition and the loop is ended. So once the this particular iteration is done, it goes and it increments the jth variable, so that is going to become 2 now. So 5 into 8 it becomes. Similarly, each and every variable here is iterated with each other variable. So at one point of time you will get I as 9 and j as 10. So when it is multiplied, you will get the product as 90, and it is going to compare with n1 equals 90, and since this is going to be true, it comes inside and it prints the output. So at last our output is going to be 9 comma 10. So now what happens here is, since the iteration continues and at one point of time I value is going to be 10 and j value is going to be 9, so at that case also you are going to get the product as 90 and it is going to print the same number. So at that time you are going to get one more output here as 10 comma 9. So both the things are correct. So you just need to iterate it over the complete variables and you will get this output. So whatever the output that we have actually seen here, you are seeing the same thing at the end of the execution also. Now here I would like to highlight few points, that what are the different Java concepts you have actually learned by executing this or by learning this particular problem statement. So let's say first one is Java basics, then operators, loops, conditional statements, then you want to see array concepts. So now what happens is, we will go through what are the different concepts that we have actually learned. So here as you can see, the complete for loop whatever that we have done is going to be under Java basics, and the operators that we have done is the multiplication operator and the comparison operator, so that will come under operators. And the looping concepts, we have used for loop here, that will come under loops. Conditional statements, we have used if condition. If you need else part also, you can just add it to here. So if condition will be covered here. And the array concepts, what are the different methods that we saw here is array1.length to get the size of that particular array, and how to traverse through the array, how you can actually get any specific element in the array. So that we also saw here. So this is the array concepts. So these are the 5 concepts that we have learned, and we have explained the logic of this problem, and we have got the desired output. So now let us see the same code executed in our IDE, and we'll see the output, that is whatever that we have seen here, the same output we should see in the system also. Okay. Okay guys, so now we'll see the execution for the same problem statement what we just saw the logic. So here to start with, I have opened IntelliJ IDE here, and I have created a project called interview questions execution, and in that I have created a package called Java interview questions. So here I'll just create a class file, Java class file. So I'll click on new Java class. I'm just going to give the name as interview question 1. Okay, so I'll select this. So you can see after I clicking on that class file, one of the class file with the same name interview question 1 is actually created here. So now this class file doesn't contain any main method, so we are supposed to create a main method here. So to the shortcut in IntelliJ IDE to create a main method is psvm. So that is nothing but public static void main. So once you create that, so your main method will be here. Then after this you are supposed to create a normal method public static void, and I am going to name this method as find product. Okay, so this will not contain any arguments, and it will be a simple method. So before execution of this method, we just saw the logic there. In that logic we saw the input, what are the input that we are supposed to pass. So here we have 2 inputs, one is an array and the other one is the number which we are supposed to compare. So first one is the array, so I'm going to create an integer array. So the way to create integer array is int and a bracket open close. This is going to signify it's an array, and I'm going to name this as a1 equals, I'm going to provide the numbers. So the same numbers which we actually saw in the logic, we are going to say you put the same numbers, that is 5 7 8 9 10 11. Okay, so now I'm going to declare one integer here, which is going to be the one which will be comparing with the product. So the number which we have taken was 90, so I'll create a same thing called int number equals 90. Okay, so here as you can see, the problem statement here is we are supposed to find 2 numbers which is going to give you the product 90. So now let us start with our program. So as we saw, this can be done with the help of for loop. So first I am going to create a for loop here. So I'll just write for, and in this int I equals 0, then I less than a1 dot length, then I plus plus. So this is going to increment the iteration, that is in each iteration it is going to increment the variable I. So now once this is done, we are supposed to create one more for loop in order to traverse through this array and pick each of these elements and do the multiplication and compare the product with the number 90. So I'll create for loop one more. So this will be int j equals 1. So the reason I am giving j equals 1 is because the outer for loop will be actually taking 0th index, and when you are actually supposed to multiply the number, you are supposed to get the next number. So I am starting with 1, that is the first index. So we will take this number and this number and multiply it, and we'll compare the product. So now the same thing, j less than a1 dot length j plus plus. Okay, so these are inner for loop and this is the outer for loop. So inside this inner for loop,
Now I'm supposed to put the operation. What is that operation we are supposed to do here? It's the multiplication operation. So for that I'm going to create a variable called int result. Then I'm going to take this number, that is a1 of I and a1 of j, and I'm going to multiply them. So a1 of I asterisk a1 of j. So what these two numbers are going to fetch in this first iteration, a1 of I is going to be 5. So a1 of I is going to be 5 and a1 of j is going to be 7 in this iteration. So 5 into 7 is 35. So next thing is we are supposed to compare this 35, whatever the result that we get from the multiplication, and we are supposed to compare that with this number 90. For that I'm going to put a condition, that is if condition here. I'll put result equals number. So what this if condition is going to do, it is going to do this comparison. This is a comparison operator. It will check whether this result, whatever that we got here, is equal to this number. So if it is true, it will go inside and we are going to print those two numbers. So I'm going to put the message as the numbers are, and I'm going to concatenate here, that is a1 of I, then I'm going to and a1 of j. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm just actually printing those numbers. So it's a simple program, as we saw in the logic also. We have got this array of numbers here, and we have got one number. We are supposed to find those two numbers which product is going to be equal to this number. For that we created two for loops, one for the outermost loop and the other one is the inner loop. So how it is going to traverse is, the first number is going to be multiplied with each of these other numbers. Once this is done, it will move on to this next thing. So from 7 it starts and it is going to multiply with all these other numbers. So similarly the iteration continues and it will traverse through each and every element in this array. Okay, so what is the output that we are supposed to see here? The output should be, first is 9 comma 10, and the same reverse is going to be also true, that is 10 comma 9. So once we execute this program, we are supposed to see this output in our console. So before executing this, I have to call this particular function in my main method. So I'll just call this here and I'll save it and I'll right click and run this particular method. So once I do this, you can see the output here. The numbers are 9 and 10 and the numbers are 10 and 9. So the output, whatever that we expected, is actually getting displayed here. Okay, so guys, so this is the problem statement what we discussed today, and the solution for this is this program. Okay, thank you, thanks for watching.